taking responsibility for their own safety and security on their properties as we deal more and more with flooding. At 5 o'clock today, the initial marine engineering study for the dock was sent. I have not read it yet. Han will review it and assist us in translating it and making next steps and determinations. But as soon as we'll forward it once Will reads the draft and make sure it has everything that we need to have in it, forward it around for everybody to see. Marjorie will. Opportunity to add or modify agenda items. I would like to make two edits. One is we have a request to do a marriage here at Village Hall while I am away, and we need to name an additional marriage officer. So we have a resolution related to that. I'd like to add that at the end for Marjorie to be able to perform the wedding. And I will make a motion for a very quick executive session at the end of the meeting to update the board on two matters currently under discussion. And I'll give when we make the motion to enter, I'll give the full text of the language. Board business. So now we do have a guest today, two guests. Saladin Allah has traveled from Niagara Falls to talk with us about initiative being led by his organization, the Niagara Falls Underground Railroad Heritage Center, and the Harriet Tubman Scenic Byway. He is joined by his daughter Anusha. He's going to be telling us about it, asking us for support by a resolution. I want to point out that other municipalities around us are already on board. Phillipstown, Beacon, I think Fishkill, right? We're sort of the last piece. I moved this to the spring, so there'll be less confusion talking about trails when we were talking about the other big trail in the spring. I thought we'd be able to focus more on the positivity of this conversation later. So thank you for joining us. And you're welcome to come to the table if you'd like.
Yes.
You can too if you'd like, Anusha.
If Anusha wants to be recorded, but if
yes.
That's fine.
Okay, all right.
And
We are.
so first I want to thank you for inviting me here to speak this evening. I'm Saladin Allah. I'm Director of Community Engagement at the Underground Railroad Heritage Center in Niagara Falls, but I'm also Chair of our Descendants Council for the Underground Railroad Byway. So if you're familiar with the book Uncle Tom's Cabin, written by Harriet Beecher Stowe in 1852, there was a book that was written in 1849 that was about the life of a man named Josiah Henson. And his life became the central narrative for the book Uncle Tom's Cabin, and that's my third great grandfather. So some of my family came through the Underground Railroad, settled on the Canadian side. My grandmother got married in 1925, moved over to the Niagara Falls side on the American side, had my father, and my father had 7 children. I'm the most intelligent. 7 children.
Getting that on the record.
What number are you in the line?
I'm right in the middle.
You're in the middle. I'm set.
Okay. Yeah. So our Harriet Tubman initiative started a couple of years ago, and this was a project for over a decade that people that were in various different sites along New York State wanted to be able to create, because there had not been any type of contiguous roadway to honor people's journey through New York State. So EarthMeet, which is the Underground Railroad Consortium of New York State, were able to actually achieve a grant. Our organization is a part of EarthMeet, and that gave us the initial funding to be able to put forward the initiative to start this process of creating a scenic byway. Central to this project was to get a corridor management plan that was officially designated and established through the Scenic Byway Program, DLT. And a part of that meant we had to get resolutions across the state of New York, which covers the 550 miles of the scenic byway. 176 municipalities, 22 counties, and to date, we only have 5 resolutions that we need for this 550-mile byway. So we've been doing a lot of work for the last couple of years. Just June 4th, phase one of our scenic byway was passed unanimously in the state legislature on the Assembly and Senate side. And then within 9 days, the governor signed the scenic byway into law, which is virtually unheard of because every 2-year cycle in the state legislature, they introduce 13 to 15,000 bills, and they rarely meet, the type of specifications where you get unanimous support across the Assembly and Senate and to get it to the desk to the governor to sign it. So it's pretty historic for us to do that. So having that first segment passed into law, we've now been working on the second phase of the scenic byways, which is from Auburn, where Harriet's chosen town was, to New York City. And we're striving to make sure we have this done and presented to DOT so that second phase of this byway can get signed into law in 2027, because that's the 200th anniversary of the abolition of slavery in New York State. So we're in a pretty good position to be able to do that. And we're here just to seek your support for that resolution, so that we can strive to meet DOT's deadline and one of the rest of our resolutions for phase two by the end of July, maybe beginning of August, but at least the end of July, so that we can finish the corridor management plan. And then from there, be able to move forward with getting it designated second phase in 2027. So I'm also here to answer any other questions that you may have.
Maybe just for the benefit of the public, you can describe what it means for a municipality. This is something you're asking us to manage or fund.
Absolutely. Okay. So what a scenic byway is typically when you put directions in a Google map, it's going to take you on the fastest route. It's usually along throughways. What a scenic byway does is it gives you the opportunity to travel through municipalities for you to be able to see not only the historic landscape, but also to be able to support local businesses, right? And what DOT is responsible for is simply putting up the signage. So for a scenic byway, you're not actually building roads. What you're doing is you're designating a path or a journey with signage so that people know that they're actually traveling this route. So what we've done is we've been able to document Harriet Tubman and other freedom seekers' journeys across New York State. And many of the sites are on the National Scenic Byway program. And people will have an opportunity to travel to places like this and see some of the various different historic landscape that they have here. Also, it opens up municipalities for support and funding around historic preservation, because this is a historically preservation initiative in terms of sites related to the Underground Railroad. It's also connected to various other different types of history that is important that people would like to see when they go and travel different places. So each municipality also has an opportunity to access funding in terms of state and federal grants for road work, because since DOT is designating and establishing the scenic byway route, they're also responsible for the road work and road repair. So you wouldn't have to go and strive to seek other funding for road repairs or other types of things. That is the responsibility of DOT. So for each municipality, there is no financial obligation or burden to be able to recognize and acknowledge this scenic byway. What it does is it gives you an opportunity to tap into other resources to be able to preserve a lot of the historic landscape that you already have, to be able to support businesses. So just like me and my daughter, we traveled here, we stopped at an ice cream shop by a market along Route 9. And then we also, before I stopped here, I went to the Foundry one time. And she's the one that actually recognized, because I'm looking around and I'm like, this kind of looks familiar. And she's like, we went there before, you got chai tea. And so when people travel and they go places, they want to shop, they want to patronize different businesses. And that's what the Scenic Byway does. It not only honors the history here in New York State, but it also gives people an opportunity to invest in the local municipalities that they're actually traveling through. The first phase of the byway that we just got signed into law, that is from Auburn to Niagara Falls, we've collected data that determined that the cultural heritage tourism that is generated in this segment, which is 176 miles from Auburn to Niagara Falls, generates over $3.2 billion of visitor revenue. And these are people who are staying at hotels, that are going to restaurants, entertainment.
Those berries are very poisonous.
Oh, they are?
They're
Tony's
like-
Tony's
they're
a
like
free
land
guy.
berries. You shouldn't be playing with those things.
Oh, you didn't realize what they
sorry.
are? They came out of this.
Yeah, I know.
You know what? Let's take them and have you go, do you know where you washed your hands before?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
Good.
interrupt.
That's all right.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
You will have to wash your hands after. Don't put your fingers in your mouth.
I didn't mean that.
Thank you.
Thank
Tony.
you. Yes, so, and a second point is each municipality looks different. So Cold Spring looks different than Rochester. You know, that municipality may have other ideas about travel and how they would like to amplify the scenic byway that's traveling through those areas. You may have other municipalities that's mostly agricultural. So they wouldn't necessarily look into funding for like historic preservation of sites, but they may tap into federal or state funding that's around agriculture.
We are well acquainted with.
Daddy, you just touch them with your hand, why don't you just, so we don't need a third person washing their hands.
Okay.
Thank you, Lily. We're well acquainted with both historic preservation, we have a national district and a local district here, and with tourism. We're a major tourism destination because we're an hour north of the city on Metro North. For me, I think it's really fantastic to have this part of New York's history added to the story, in the Hudson Valley in particular. So I think that's really cool.
Absolutely.
I know Tony has a couple questions. I have one. We work with DOT a lot. What engagement will DOT have with us, with the municipality, about where the signs go?
So the route that we already have established, they would work with the municipality
They
in
talk
terms
to us about where they go.
Absolutely. And it's a partnership, and it's the regional who determine, okay, this is the location of where the signage actually goes. So you work with them directly.
Sounds great. You have some questions, right?
My question is, financial commitment from us. I mean, the whole thing is a great idea.
Mhm.
Are we signing up for financial commitment? No.
It's DOT pays for the signage. Go ahead.
Yep, DOT is responsible for the signage, for the upkeep of the road work, because it's county and state roads.
Okay.
So they're the ones that are responsible. And like I mentioned, the municipality so DOT already has budgeted every year funding for road repair, road work, you know, and there's other programs in the state and the federal government that you can tap into for other things that you would like.
We can tap into you.
Absolutely.
Like,
As a
for example, on
municipality.
the TAP grant, if we had been part of Scenic Byway, that would have been one of the things we could list as, one of the,
Attributes of the town.
attributes, thank you, yes, positive attributes about the roadway.
And then also thinking outside the box, because you're familiar more with this landscape than I actually am. So you may have other ideas in terms of, so I saw a lot of the signage along 9 on this way and the other way with a lot of the different soldiers, right? So I see that that's an important history here in this area as well. You may think outside the box in terms of how else can be amplified the stories of soldiers and the military aspect of what's celebrated here as well. In addition to this being a scenic byway, all right, that's related to the Underground Railroad. So
Any other questions or discussion?
No.
I'm just curious. So looking on the map, it's following 9D, the route, is that right?
yes.
Okay. And have you identified any potential related sites of interest
Just
in this sort of general corridor?
There's a lot of mythology, but
Yeah.
So the railroads themselves and water routes were always historically followed by freedom seekers because they travel in a certain direction. And a lot of times people are oftentimes under the impression that people just followed the drinking gourd or looked up at nighttime using stars as navigational tools. But a lot of times people would use railroads, they would use canal.
Well, they know the Hudson goes right to Canada.
Absolutely. And people live identify this route because people are actually traveling this way.
There's also a preserved part of the old Albany Post Road, the stagecoach route up to Albany.
Mm-hmm.
And that's only
Yeah,
4 or 5 miles east of
absolutely.
here. Yeah.
And then that's another thing because local historians, researchers, this opens up other opportunities for them to actually do more research, to be able to document these stories and these journeys. So it's a great opportunity to even do more of that type of work.
And if, as we go ahead with the resolution, sorry, just to back up, I can agree. I think it's an amazing, fantastic idea to bring all of these sort of cultural, historical events to the present. If we go ahead, and I assume we will, what will happen next? What happens? What should we expect?
Okay, so we're still in the process of securing the last 5 resolutions, and that will be all 176. And then the next process is we have to submit all of the resolutions with the updated corridor management plan for the actual scenic byway, and this has to be approved by DOT. So for us to get the first phase of the byway signed into law, we had to create a corridor management plan, which highlighted phase 1 from Auburn to Niagara Falls. Now we have to update that corridor management plan with DOT to include the second phase. And from there, the next step is we have to move forward with 2027 to get phase 2 signed into law and passed in the legislature again.
Commitment. The whole
Yeah,
process is a
Yeah,
commitment.
so last time like I mentioned, we got it. So once you get the corridor management plan complete, then you have to get it passed in the state legislature. And we already got the first phase passed, which gives us leverage to be able to come back, with the 200th anniversary of the abolition of slavery in New York State. That gives us even more leverage in order to get this done in 2027. So the next phase is update the corridor management plan, identify our assembly members and our senators to sponsor this again in 2027, and then go through the process again in order to get the support that we need across the state for phase 2, and then get the governor's signature again in 2027.
Anything, any other discussion? It's not Donald. Would someone like to make a motion?
Resolution 31.
Okay. Make a motion, resolution 31-2026, whoops, that's not it. I made the wrong thing, sorry. Thank you, did not have it. A resolution for Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad, New York Scenic Byway nomination and corridor management plan adoption. Whereas the historic qualities of the Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad, New York Scenic Byway, as described in the corridor management plan and surrounding areas, has been appreciated and celebrated for over a century by residents of New York State, as well as tourists, historians, artists, authors, and other visitors to the region. It is a unique combination of the journeys of Harriet Tubman and those freedom fighters who traveled on the Underground Railroad that create the special sense of place that is vital in telling the New York story of the human desire for freedom and the historic sites they utilized during their journey to emancipation. And whereas the steering committee of the Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad, New York Scenic Byway, composed of representatives of 22 municipalities along the proposed scenic byway route, committed to working cooperatively to protect and promote the historic, scenic, recreational, and economic well-being of the 550-mile corridor throughout the state, and agreed to pursue the nomination of the Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad, New York Scenic Byway. And whereas under the leadership of the Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad, the New York Scenic Byway Steering Committee, each of the 22 counties contributed to the development of this corridor management plan by encouraging public participation, confirming the vision and goals, and leading individual meetings of the collaborative. And whereas the steering committee of the Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad, New York Scenic Byway, consisting of relatives of Harriet Tubman, descendants of freedom seekers, Harriet Tubman and or Underground Railroad historians, representatives from the state and federal agencies, have strengthened the historic integrity, representation, and the principles of the corridor management plan. And whereas in the process of developing this corridor management plan, the Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad, New York Scenic Byway Steering Committee has strengthened the bonds of intermunicipal cooperation and the involved entities envisioned further benefit through scenic byway designation, including sustained collaborative progress, increased funding opportunities for recommendations identified in the plan, enhanced partnerships with agencies responsible for the stewardship of resources along and adjacent to the byway route, and improved visitor experience that interprets and promotes the corridor's intrinsic qualities and resources. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Village of Cold Spring Boards of Trustees, yes, Village of Cold Spring Board of Trustees, supports the designation of the Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad, New York State Scenic Byway, which includes programs for stewardship and enhancement of the historic scenic byway and guidance to manage future activities along its corridor. And be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees in the Village of Cold Spring confirms that they will abide by and follow all existing New York State and federal laws and regulations that are applicable to this resolution. And be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees for the Village of Cold Spring will work in partnership with other municipalities along the Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad, New York City Byway, and local regional stakeholders in order to support future byway programs, economic development, marketing, and collaborate with these interested entities to explore opportunities for cooperation to realize the scenic byway goal. On a roll call vote.
Trustee Bartis.
Aye.
Trustee Bosey is absent. Trustee Hall.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Woods.
With pleasure. Aye.
And Mayor Foley.
Hopefully, pleasure. Hi.
Done by order of the Village of Cold Spring Board of Trustees, this resolution is adopted by a vote of 4001.
4 more, right? You just name anybody and push. Fantastic. And thank you for being so patient.
Yeah, you.
Thank you for saving her life, Tony.
She did say thank you. She said glad someone told.
Yes.
So, yes. Okay,
Now we all
so
know.
If I told her, she wouldn't have believed me.
And just make sure you wash your hands before you.
Oh, yes,
yeah,
make sure.
that's right.
Yeah, you
All right.
don't wanna touch your eyes.
Have a safe trip back. Enjoy Cold Spring while you're here. And whatever comes next.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you for all the
for
work.
coming.
I'll be the
Pleasure.
same.
And please give our best regards to Sage.
I will, definitely.
So that you can conserve or sort, I have a copy of this in my folder.
Yeah.
You wanna reuse these in the next location?
Our names on it.
Oh, our
But-
name is on it?
But yeah, I'll hand
Oh,
mine in too. Save some money. We already
Like
have
folder
it.
back? Yeah, just-
Save a couple of cents and, for the, what do you call it?
I'll keep mine, I'll give it to.
took out this part.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Safe travels back. Enjoy your trip.
Yes.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Have a good night.
Where's the
Don't touch this
Right
part.
there.
I gotta go wash my hand too, cause.
I mean, that's not gonna get you. The unripe seeds are really toxic.
Wow.
Look it up, Chinese lantern tree,
Oh,
Chinese lantern 12.
Tony knows what that tree is called, a Chinese lantern tree. So now you know the name.
It looks like little,
Paper lanterns. If you
Oh.
look them up, they look like paper lanterns.
Cool. All right, we're moving on, kiddo. All right, next, acceptance of resolutions authorizing mayor to sign employee agreements. So you'll remember, just for bringing everybody up to speed, that back in March, we had 2 projects going at once. One was the budget, and the other was updating the employee handbook with our labor attorney. And one of the recommendations we suggested that we deal with right away was the restructuring of pay for some employees. For many years previously, the village had provided a separate management stipend to some employees in addition to salary. And it had been considered a way to keep overtime costs down. However, labor law does require that municipalities properly include all remuneration in the calculation of overtime, including longevity. So, as we were creating the budget for this year, fiscal year 27, we structured the budget accordingly with the single pay line for the 4 impacted employees. And at the recommendation of the attorney, she suggested that we appropriately and proactively comply with New York State labor law and provide a 2-year look back to correct that overtime and longevity. So as of June 1st, the 4 lines are fully compliant with pay structure as it should be. And then this look back period addresses the error without that was not willful. Go ahead.
2 years, look back.
2 years is the look. Yep. 2 years is the look back if it is not willful. And there's a 3-year look back if it is willful. But obviously we weren't
No.
purposely denying people pay. Okay, so the funding for the back pay comes from our fiscal year 26 general fund allocation from last year's remaining general fund allocation, because they're one-time expenses and they occurred prior to May 31st. So it doesn't impact this year's budget at all. And then part 2 is reclassifying the village clerk position as exempt under the Fair Labor Standards Act. So lots of words. We're cleaning house in a good way. So you read number 31. Okay. So I'll read number 32. Whereas while in the process of drafting a new employee handbook, the village board became aware that the previous longstanding village practice of excluding stipends in the calculation of the hourly rate for computing overtime for overtime eligible employees was not permitted under the Fair Labor Standards Act. And whereas the miscalculation of the overtime rate was neither willful nor due to the gross negligence of the village. And whereas the village has since conducted a payroll audit to identify those overtime eligible employees whose hourly rate for the computation of overtime was done incorrectly due to the exclusion of the stipend. And whereas after being presented with this information, the Board of Trustees has now made the decision to provide back pay to those overtime eligible employees whose hourly rate for computing overtime did not include their stipends for the full period of the statute of limitations for non-willful violations, which is 2 years. And that's actually federal code. Now therefore be it resolved by the Village of Cold Spring that the settlement agreement and general release entered into by the village and Matthew Krug, attachment A, is hereby approved, and the mayor is authorized to execute the agreement on behalf of the village. And be it resolved that by the Village of Cold Spring, that the settlement agreement and general release entered into by the village of Scott Monroe, attachment B, is hereby approved, and the mayor is hereby authorized to execute the agreement on behalf of the village. And be it resolved by the Village of Cold Spring that the settlement agreement and general release entered into by the village and Robert Downey Jr., attachment C, is hereby approved, and the mayor is hereby authorized to execute the agreement on behalf of the village. And it is a roll call vote.
Do we have a second?
Oh, second.
Second.
One quick question.
Yep, discussion.
Do we have to? Or is that something that's gonna? come back?
That's in the calculation.
It's all done already.
Yep,
So it's nothing to come back later.
that's right. Michelle worked with the attorney to make sure we have all the everything in the calculation that we need.
Great.
We might have gotten the resolution number incorrect.
Well, we can call this 32, right? And then the
Can
one
we
for
just
the
call it
clerk.
32, the next one, and
What was this one? Pay rate Tubman.
that was 31. I assumed that this was 32, but this is the clerk.
You read
Well,
the.
We
overall.
wanted to
Oh, okay. I
to
did
come
that.
out in a different order.
Got it.
So
So this
I don't
is
know.
32.
this is
Cool.
32.
Then
Thank you
doesn't
for
matter.
noticing.
Got it.
That was one of the motion to change the order.
Understood.
So
Thank you.
I have moved, Teresa has seconded. We addressed Tony's question. Any other discussion?
No.
Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Bartis.
Aye.
Trustee Bosey is absent. Trustee Hall.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Woods.
Aye.
And Mayor Foley.
Aye.
And the resolution is adopted 4-0-0-1.
I'm gonna suggest that we, just for clarity's sake in the record, sorry to do this to Marjorie, that's gonna make me nuts. Do your job description first, and then let's close out last fiscal year and then move to the new classification for this year. So let's stick with the clerk treasurer paid time back pay. And Marjorie has not been with us for 2 years, she's been with us for a year. So the language is a little different. Would someone else like to read this one?
Sure. Resolution 33, 2026, clerk treasurer overtime back pay. Whereas Marjorie Gage was an overtime eligible employee of the Village of Cold Spring while serving as its clerk treasurer from the commencement of her employment through May the 31st, 2026. And whereas while serving as an overtime eligible employee, Ms. Gage was entitled to straight time for hours worked in excess of 37.5 hours, up to 40 hours, and overtime at the rate of time and 1/2 for hours worked in excess of 40 hours in a work week. And whereas while in process of drafting a new employee handbook, the village board became aware that for a period of August 21st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026, the position of village clerk treasurer was missing position under the Fair Labor Standards Act based on the job responsibilities for the position at that time. And whereas during the aforementioned period, there were work weeks during which the village clerk treasurer worked in excess of 37.5 hours in a work week, and should have therefore been compensated at the straight time rate for the hours worked up to 40 hours, and the rate of time and 1/2 for the hours worked beyond 40 hours in a work week. And whereas since there were no payroll records documenting hours worked by the village clerk treasurer, the mayor met with the village clerk treasurer to determine a figure that reflected an estimate of overtime work since the commencement of the village clerk treasurer's employment with the village. And whereas based on that meeting, the village estimated, to the extent practicable, the amount of wages owed for overtime not paid since the commencement of the clerk treasurer's employment. And whereas that amount of unpaid overtime was reviewed and deemed reasonable by the clerk treasurer, and be it resolved by the board of the village of Cold Spring that a payroll check be issued to the village clerk treasurer in the gross amount of $12,241.20, less ordinary payroll deductions. Said payments represents, to the extent practicable, the unpaid overtime due to the village clerk treasurer from the commencement of her employment through and including May 31st, 2026. Be it further resolved by the board of the village of Cold Spring that the payment be made within 30 calendar days of the approval of this resolution. I continue, right? Yeah, right.
Please, your roll call. Oh, no, wait, second. I'll second. Okay, now we need a roll call.
Trustee Bardas.
Aye.
Trustee Bosey is absent. Trustee Hall.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Woods.
Aye.
And Mayor Foley.
Okay, and then the last is to tie up loose ends with civil service and make sure that we have Marjorie for the clerk treasurer position meeting that it has the job description elements needed to be non-exempt. So in the attachment is Marjorie's job description. It is a very, very, very long list, a little bit daunting when you see it down in writing. And this resolution is to accept that job description classification. And it is number 34. 4-402 sets forth the job responsibilities of village clerk. And whereas village law section 4-408 sets forth, and when we say village law, we're referring to New York State village law, sets forth the job responsibilities of the village treasurer. And whereas pursuant to New York State village law section 4-402I, the village board is empowered to approve a resolution which assigns duties to the clerk which are not inconsistent with the office of village clerk. And whereas pursuant to village law 4-408F, the village board is empowered to approve a resolution which assigns duties to the village treasurer which are not inconsistent with the office of village treasurer. And whereas, as of the date of this resolution, Marjorie Gage serves the capacity as both village clerk and village treasurer. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Cold Spring, consistent with the authority granted to it under New York State Village Law, Section 4-402I and 4-408F, those duties set forth in the job description annexed to this resolution as Appendix A and on file with the village clerk shall be assigned to Marjorie Gage, her capacity as village clerk treasurer. Be it further resolved that with change in job responsibilities assigned to Ms. Gage, she shall now be classified as overtime exempt employee pursuant to the Fair Labor Standards Act. Motion, do we have a second? Second. Okay, and it's a roll call.
Trustee Gordis.
Aye.
Trustee Bozzi is absent. Trustee Hall.
Aye.
Trustee, Deputy Mayor Wood.
Aye.
And Mayor Foley.
Aye. Thank you, Marcus. Okay, the next packet is. Oh, no, okay, the next item is related to WQIP. So we'll remember that we retained Labella Group to prepare an application for a WQIP land acquisition grant. Oh, I also, just to close out on the last item, I wanted to add that it's my intention that we finish the work on the handbook update through August and get it to the trustees for a vote in early fall and finally get that over with. There's a few more things that need to be reviewed by staff, trustees to review. Okay. So the grant's coming together nicely. It's been a great collaboration between the village staff, Tectonic, our engineers, and the Labella Group. We're nearly to deadline. I am going to be away during the turn-in period, so we're having it's time to push press and send it in to the portal. With someone, well, first of all, any discussions?
Yes. What does WQIP stand for?
You're gonna
I
ask
can't
that.
find that anywhere.
Water Quality Improvement Program.
Okay, thank you.
My problem is I have it in my head as PTIP, and I always say
Yeah.
PTIP.
All right, thank you.
Yep, it's a New York State fees grant that I have to. Someone like to make a motion for resolution number 35.
I'll make a resolution as resolution number 35. Second, anybody?
Oh, you have to read it.
It's pretty long too.
I unmake my thing.
I mean, clerk, do we have to read it all the way through?
I think you should,
Okay.
yes,
Buckle up.
sorry.
Whereas on March 25th, 2026, the Village of Cold Spring Board of Trustees Village approved resolution number 35-2026, a resolution of the Village of Board of Cold Springs authorizing the mayor to sign necessary documents associated with the acquisition of real property. Prior resolution, which property is identified as section 16, block 1, lot 5, and section 27, block 1, lot 24 on the tax maps in the county of Putnam property. Whereas, as part of the prior resolution in compliance with the State Environmental Quality Review Act, the village completed parts 1, 2, and 3 of the short environmental assessment form, short EAF. I made the determination with respect to the likelihood of significant adverse environmental impacts arising from the purchase of the property. And whereas the village consummated such a purchase and took title to the property on June 23rd, 2026. And whereas the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation has made the following available through the Water Quality Improvement Project Program known as WQIP, or the Land Acquisition and Source Water Protection through the 2026 Consolidated Funding Applications. Village of Cold Spring owns and operates a public drinking water supply system that includes Cold Spring Reservoir and the upper dam. And whereas the village seeks WQIP funding for land acquisition, source water protection project involving land adjacent to or functionally connected to the village drinking water and reservoir system, including such parcels, easements, interests, access rights, riparian buffer areas, and related real property and interests as may be necessary or appropriate to protect the village's public drinking water source. And whereas proposed 2026 WQIP project is separate and complementary source of water protection project and is distinct from the village's prior WQIP award for Upper Cold Spring Dam reconstruction, which supports dam safety and structural improvements. And whereas the proposed land acquisition will support permanent land control, protection of the reservoir and watershed buffers, protection of incompatible future land use and riparian buffer, restoration and enhancement, safe stewardship access, and the long-term resilience of the village's public drinking water supply. And whereas village board supports the submission of the WQIP, I'm trying to say it quick application, and recognizes that the village will be responsible for providing the required local match and paying for eligible and necessary project costs, including but not limited to the acquisition costs, appraisals, surveys, title work, legal services, and environmental due diligence, closing costs, stewardship planning, and other eligible transactional and implementation costs, subject to final project approval, available appropriations, and where applicable by law. And whereas the village has determined that WQIP application and the potential receipt of funds related to thereto is a type 2 action for the purposes of secret, requiring no further evaluation. And whereas, nevertheless, with respect to the submission of the WQIP application, the village has reevaluated the short EAF and the village's determination of significance in the prior resolution in order to account for the potential receipt of WQIP funding and relating thereto. Whereas the village has application and potential receipt of funds relating thereto are unlikely to have any adverse impacts on the environment, as those actions do not in any way conflict with local zoning, result of change in use of the intensity of the use of land, impair the quality or character of the existing community, result in any adverse changes to existing traffic infrastructure, increase the use of energy, negatively impact public or private water supplies, watersheds, negatively impact historic or archaeological resources, adversely change natural resources, increase the potential for erosion or flooding, or create a hazard in the environmental resources of human health. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Village of Cold Spring Trustees hereby authorizes submission of a 2026 WQIP land grant for the source water protection application through the consolidated funding application on behalf of the Village of Cold Spring, and be it further resolved that the village board authorizes the mayor or the mayor's designee to execute and submit the CFA application, required certifications, budget materials, maps, monitoring, and enforcement protocol, and any other documents necessary or appropriate for the WQIP application. And be it further resolved that the village board authorizes the mayor, subject to review by village council, further village board approval, where required by law, to negotiate and execute grant-related documents, landowner commitment documents, purchase agreements, option agreements, easements, access agreements, professional service agreements. That's a lot of agreements. And other documents necessary or appropriate to advance the proposed land acquisition. source water protection project. And be it further resolved that the village board authorizes the use of village funds, eligible in-kind services, and slash other eligible non-state funding sources to provide the required local match and to pay project costs, including acquisition, transactional costs, and subject to final award. Okay. Available appropriations, applicable procurement, and municipal law requirements, and be it further resolved that WQIP funding is awarded by the village. The village board authorizes the mayor or the mayor's designee to execute a grant agreement related to state contract documents subject to review by the village council and compliance with all applicable requirements. And be it further resolved that the village's determination of significance is herein reaffirmed and restated with respect to the purchase of the property and the WQIP application. And be it further resolved that the resolution shall take effect immediately. The question of the foregoing resolution was duly put to a vote as follows. Sorry if there's any typos or anything or miss things, but it's here if anybody wants to read it.
One thing we will need before we'll need a second, I'm happy to second it, but we need to get the correct resolution number from March 25th, 2026. When we
It was 35.
purchased. 35 is the one you just read,
Okay.
but the first paragraph references March 25th, 2026.
Right, I'll enter that into.
We'll enter that to the record. I will second with great resolve. It's a roll call.
Trustee Bartis.
Aye.
Trustee Bosey is absent. Trustee Hall.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Woods.
Aye.
And Mayor Foley.
Aye.
And the resolution is adopted by a vote of 4-0-0-1. And thank you.
Yes. The Academy Award goes
It's
to-
done just with the resolutions. I apologize.
Only adapted as a bedtime story for kids.
Resolutions were.
My turn's asleep already. Sorry.
I appreciate it. That was for our, Mr. Arabito. Thank you very much. Okay.
Okay, next item up is the Hub 5K Family Fun Run fundraiser. It happens every year. It has been vetted by the events coordinator and the OIC for Sunday, September 20th. It's the usual route, starting at the bandstand and going up through the village, up into Nelsonville and back down to the bandstand on the waterfront. 6:30 a.m. setup through 11:30. The Hub has a solid list of volunteers who will be assisting with traffic assistance, and they have arranged to have Putnam County React, a group of retired officers, join. Traditionally, we still have two officers at the trickiest intersections during the race itself, about a 2-hour period. I would like to propose that we co-sponsor this event with the Hub, as our police department has a working relationship with the Hub, and our officers and the public they serve benefit from the resources of the Hub. And in that co-sponsorship, we would then split the cost of the police traffic control with the Hub, with the village covering one officer and the Hub covering the other at a regular rate for a regular village event. Any discussion?
What is the regular rate?
Whatever the officer's normal pay is, so it ranges by officer, depending on whose longevity, et cetera. 30 to 35 roughly.
Thank you.
Would someone like to, or any other discussion about the event?
I make a motion to approve the Phillipstown Hub 6th Annual 5K Family Fun Run on Sunday, September 20th.
Second.
Favor?
And also.
And also the sharing of payment for 2 police officers between the village and the Hub.
Identify the village as a co-sponsor.
Why is on the insurance certificate Haldane School District listed and the village?
Because part of the course runs through.
Part of the course goes through Haldane, so they have to show Haldane proof of insurance.
We'll kick them up some fun. Okay.
So,
second.
so who, you moved, no, Tweets moved, Andrew seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
So follow up on the Lund Terrace, oh, wait, next is, I'm sorry, water collect connection on Belvedere. So if you'll recall that we're trying to coordinate. Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks. We were trying to coordinate water system, public water system upgrades on that street with the new house being developed there. He worked really fast. We are still in the process of the village attorney drafting and with the private property owners. We took control of the road in June 2024, as a public road by use, but that's just the road surface, not the land underneath. And since it's moving slowly anyway, John recommends that we do, he had originally recommended quick claim deeds to get it done faster. But since we're not ready funding wise either, he would prefer that we go the route to have an individual agreement with each person. That's the update on how we got to where we are. Meanwhile, Mr. Squilla, the house is ready to be connected to water. He will need to go all the way to the main, which is at, the stub of the main is at, I'm sorry, the main is at 9D.
Is that gonna be an issue with the easements going through there?
We don't have any, right? We haven't finished that right now. Right now it's,
Yeah, but I mean, is that gonna be an issue with private property owners that we digging through their property?
it is not even on that road. Some are public and some are private. Right now, that's for Mr. Squilla to manage with his neighbors. We don't.
Okay, as long
be
as
involved in
we
that
don't, okay,
process.
that's fine. As long as we're not doing something that could.
No,
possibly
we're
put
only
us out there
approving
for-
his connection to the water main
Right.
right now. It is a larger
Inch and a
line,
half.
service line. It's 1.5 inches. The code calls for 3/4. That's why it's in front of us. The reason it needs to be 3.5 inches rather than 3/4 is the length to guarantee sufficient pressure going all the way from 90 to the back of Belvedere. So Matt Cruz, the water and wastewater superintendent, has reviewed the application and has recommended that we, as the Board of Water Commissioners, allow the property owner and their proposed plumbing and excavation outfits to proceed with the installation of a new 1.5-inch residential combo.
Would that be used as a water line going back in there to tap onto later for the other houses?
Not big enough to be a main and sink.
Oh, okay. Thanks. All
So
right.
that'll be the next round,
Okay.
is getting everybody else hooked up.
Thank you.
And as I learned from my own experience, this is all at the property owner's expense, right?
The property owners expense,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
Yes, indeed. So, would someone like to make a motion? To accept Matt's recommendation? I'll make a motion to
How much
accept
reading's gotta be
the,
done?
I'll make a motion, this is a quick one, to accept the recommendation of Matt Krug regarding the installation of a 1.5-inch copper residential water service line for, I'm sorry, I said 8, it's 6 Belvedere.
It's 8 Belvedere. The addresses for that property have changed.
Yes, I said
because of
6.
subdivision.
I'm correcting myself and identifying it as it is on Matt's recommendation, 8.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Right?
All right, now, like what we thought was gonna be, as with everything we do, I think things are going to be easy. So last week, or whenever we were last together, we had a very long session, as you'll recall. We were all exhausted. We voted to put, authorizing the mayor to accept a proposal from Carlin Simpson and Associates for geotechnical services, and then forgot to vote on it. So I did speak with the village attorney about how to manage this, because we wanted to get it done ASAP. And because we had all discussed it in the session. And no one had opposition. He felt comfortable with having me sign it so they could proceed. So I did on the 9th. And what we're doing here is memorializing that consent.
So we have to read that resolution.
This is a short one, and it is number 36. No, 30. Tony read 35. Yep, so this is 36.
Right, resolution 36. Right. You know what I mean?
You did 36 already, but.
No.
Tony did 35.
36? Yes.
Yeah, I guess it just went off.
Village of Cold Spring Board of Trustees accepting the proposal for rock slope stability evaluation on Lund Terrace by Carlin Simpson and Associates. The following resolution was offered by myself and seconded by Andrew. Whereas a rock slope on Lund Terrace is in the need of stability and evaluation, and whereas the geotechnical engineering services are a specialized professional service, and whereas the village consulting engineer James J. Hahn Engineering recommends and has subcontracted for this service with Carlin Simpson and Associates, and whereas because of their recommends that Carlin Simpson and Associates be selected to undertake the evaluation of Lund Terrace rock wall. And whereas it's July 8th, 2026 meeting of the Village Board of Trustees discussed the contracting of Carlin Simpson in principle and found the proposed rate to be acceptable for the service provided. Now therefore be resolved that the Village Board of Trustees accepts the July 8th, 2026 proposal of Carlin Simpson Associates to evaluate the slope and prepare construction documents at the rate ranging between $4,500 and $6,500. And be it further resolved that the village board authorizes the mayor to execute an agreement with Carlin Simpson for these described services.
Trustee Bartis,
Aye.
trustee Bozzi is absent. Trustee Hall.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Woods. Aye. And Mayor Cooley.
You know, I typed this and I misspelled my own name. So if you kindly correct that in the record, I will vote aye. Bowie,
Correction.
like I'm Swede or something.
So the resolution is adopted by a 4001.
The next one is just a vote to, so Bugsy, sourced from New York Helps, the DOT, Jersey barriers. We were set to get them and DOT realized, oh, every 4 years we sign a mutual aid agreement with them.
2 years before.
4, I think it's 4.
2026 to 2028.
Oh, I'm sorry, 2 years. That we're due to sign it again. So they asked us to sign it first before they will deliver them. So I am asking you all to approve me signing this mutual aid agreement with DOT so that we can get the Jersey barrier then.
Just need to check 2 year box.
Check the 2 year box, yeah.
Second.
Did someone make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Alright.
Make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign a biannual shared services agreement with the NYSDOT. This approval will allow for installation of barriers on Lund Terrace by the New York State Department of Transportation.
Second, just for future, it does say 2 or 4 years. Is it
Yeah.
possible to
They
do?
filled out the
They filled out
date that they're willing to.
I
They
see.
signed it first.
Got it.
But let's ask next time. I
Right.
mean, it won't be us, but, okay.
Can't hurt.
Okay, okay, so, I will, Tweeps did. I think, yeah. I will get an update from Han before I go to find out how things are progressing with them. See where we are. Okay. Fee schedule. Yes, fee schedule. All right, so. So this is what it used to look like. This is what Toots and I are proposing that it looks like now. There were a few goals here. We were changing a number of fees anyway, as was discussed in the budget cycle. But this was impossible to use. It was organized in such a strange way and unclear. So now the fees and fines are organized by type. The most frequently requested, asked for are at the top, and they're color coded so that when Abigail is looking with someone on the website, she can say, if you look on page 4 at the light blue section, or, you know, whatever might be applicable. So that's the biggest visual change. The other goal from our discussions on the budget was aligning our fees with the town of Phillipstown, since they are doing our code enforcement anyway. That rather than it be per foot or per square foot, it be a cost of project, per $1,000 cost of project fee. So that is reflected. And then I'd like to go through just to confirm that a couple of things that we discussed in the budget cycle. On page 1, I am now unsure about this police report abstract. I thought I understood Michelle to be saying that $5 is charged every time, but it's that a particular company sends a check for $5 every time they request an incident report or accident report. So I'm not sure what we are allowed to charge for under that. So in the adopted version, I'd like to scratch that line until we have more information, till we have a correct information on that.
Scratch the amount or scratch the
Scratch
entire
the whole
line?
line, police report abstract, $20, and we'll get that figured out. Birth certificate and death certificate are there now. It aligns the references to the permit areas as they're identified in the chapter. The day limitations that used to be on this they weren't actually in the code. I don't know where the 3-day limitations came from, so they're out. Go ahead.
No, I'm just having stared at the original and worked through it. One thing to note too is that it was very duplicative,
Yes.
but each time it was just confusing.
Yeah, it was confusing in a different way, yeah. So the off-street parking, you'll remember that when we reviewed 1 Depot Square and 37 Main, those projects, or any other Main Street project, if they can't provide the parking that is required under the planning board, our code allows a payment in lieu of parking. It was at $250, which we felt was not sufficient. The attorney recommended that we not go too high too quickly because there are major projects coming before the planning board soon, and you don't want to treat them terribly differently than you treated the last application. So their recommendation was to say up to $1,000 per space, one time upfront, and then revisit it again in a couple of years.
We get paid once, and then don't get anything for a couple of years?
We used to get paid $250 to get nothing again.
Well, I think we should say, okay, this is what it is at the beginning, then it's so much a year after that, so we guarantee income coming in for us.
It becomes a compliance and management problem.
Just add it to the taxes. Can we do that?
I don't know the answer to that.
Pardon?
I don't know the answer to that.
So,
May I suggest that we accept this change tonight and then look further into those questions? So that what we don't want to be doing is having an applicant in front of the planning board and making a change in the middle of their process, because they can ask to go back to what's currently on the books. So,
Well, I mean, whatever's in front of the planning board now, of course, it wouldn't be any votes in front of the planning board, correct?
if we adopt this tonight, this will be. If we don't adopt this tonight, it'll be $250. So what I'm saying is, I hear what you're saying, and I think those are interesting ideas.
Yeah.
Let's look into them, but for tonight, go with the higher level, so it's on the record. And available we have several big projects coming on
Mm,
Main Street,
right.
and that's not gonna be a quick process. Go ahead.
I'm okay with what's written as is. I just want to fully understand that $1,000 is for 5 years, right?
It's, yes, one time upfront.
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I'm looking at the right line. Is it
Off-street parking fee in lieu.
and what we call parking waivers in
That's
the
exactly right.
resolution?
Yes.
Okay. And it's not a minimum of $1,000.
Up
It's
to.
it's up to 1,000.
Yeah,
How is-
and the reason that the attorney recommended up to is that it, for a smaller business, like I can't give an example of a tiny shop right now, but for a tiny shop that doesn't need a lot of parking, doesn't need a lot of waivers, and you don't want to discourage people, you don't want to discourage small businesses from opening, to make it at the discretion of the board up to $1,000.
I think that's gonna cause a problem later. I think it should be one set price. This is what it is for everybody. A parking waiver is a parking waiver.
That may be a challenge for someone. It may be easy for a developer like 37 Main. It may be harder for a small business owner renting a shop, opening.
Yeah, but how many parking waivers do they get?
They won't need as many as the parking tables.
Okay, so it's still cheaper. I think we're gonna get confused by changing the fees each time for each person.
We're not changing each time for each person. This allows us the flexibility to go up to 1,000. We don't have to go less than 1,000, but it allows us flexibility if there is a circumstance where the village board feels it's appropriate to ask for less. It's not saying we have to, we're going to ask for less, but it gives us the capacity to.
I'd rather stick with the set fee, but you guys got whatever.
What
it's a
thoughts
vote-
from
it's a
others?
vote.
No, I mean, I think that allows for flexibility, as you noted, not all businesses, I mean, well, first of all, we're talking about a limited amount of spaces anyway, but.
Yeah.
You know, a business that's a flower shop versus a larger entity shouldn't have to, it's sort of different. It's not apples and apples.
You know, the parking,
They have to pay a
the
fee.
parking spot is one apple,
It is one apple,
right?
but I think that this way it acknowledges some difference and I don't know, opportunity to allow for different sized businesses to operate on.
Yeah, but the
Main
difference,
Street.
the businesses are gonna be, small businesses are gonna require less parking spaces than a larger
It's true, and
business.
it's also gonna be
That's
a
right.
So
bigger
it's
nut.
scaled correctly.
It's a bigger nut for a smaller business to
Agreed.
come up with 1,000. So prior, we had a single number with no flexibility, and it was way too low. And so now we're getting a higher number, but we have flexibility by having the language up to.
Right, do we have a cap on parking waivers for the entire village?
You need to read the zoning code. It
No, I'm
is
just
by,
asking.
for the entire village? No, it's
Yeah,
by
so we can
application.
just keep selling them as,
This would be a good thing for you to read in the code. It is a by application. If there's a parking table in the zoning code that dictates how many spaces are required for different types of uses. This was adopted in 2010
Mhm.
as a way to get
Get
around
it.
the old parking table, which was ridiculous. It would have required, 60 spots for 37 Main Street. The new parking table that was adopted in 2023 is slimmed down in terms of requirements. And better sized for the village, but we still physically cannot meet on Main Street, on the street itself,
Mhm.
the number of parking spaces that would be required for a business on Main Street.
So where does this money go?
It goes into the general fund.
Okay,
because it has to go into the general fund under law, and then it's allocated by the village board for whatever use it might be. And in the past, those uses have been
Oh, okay.
things like paying for parking
I
meters.
understand. Okay.
Perhaps, in the description, maybe we just put waivers in
Sure.
brackets, just so, because people.
Well, one like
Fee in lieu.
off-street
Off-street
parking
parking.
waiver,
That's how
slash
we,
fee in lieu.
Yeah.
It doesn't solve the problem of creating more parking spaces, to your logic, it doesn't, but it's something to offset impact. But you don't wanna offset impact to the degree that you discourage the kinds of small businesses that we want to have on Main Street. It really kicks into place with bigger. Okay, are we good with that one then?
Yep.
Up to 1,000 per space, one time upfront. And then to the larger question of looking at that structure of the code, we can work on that as part of zoning stuff. Okay. Simplified town for current code. Okay, operating permit is, it used to be by square foot, which is silly, just a $200 business. When you open a new business, it's a $200 operating permit. Return checks go from 25 to 75. Building and construction, it's now reflects the town of Phillipstown's. As I said, what is substantially different is that we used to charge for a building permit application. Now that which front loaded, now it backloads. So rather than charging for the application, it charges for the certificate of occupancy at the beginning. And then from there, so that they're tied into the process, right, of going through the review. And then from there, it's a percent of construction per 100, I'm sorry, 100, not 1,000. That's $100 minimum, 1% of construction costs, $100 minimum on smaller things like accessory buildings. Questions, conversation? Okay. Standing boards, we, during the budget process, made consistent, there's a motion to make consistent the application fees and the escrow fees. And I believe, I want to make sure I understood correctly, that when HDRB goes to public hearing, that it used to be a structured application fee and public hearing fee. Public hearing fee wasn't enough to cover escrow. I want to make sure that that was the intention of the board, was to get rid of that public hearing fee completely.
Well, the escrows to cover consultants and
That's right.
incidentals and paper.
That's
and
right,
all
the
that.
advertising and all of
Okay.
that. The HDRB doesn't often need the attorney, but when they need the attorney, they really need the attorney, and it shouldn't be coming out of our pockets. There is an edit here on the escrow fee for the planning board. It needs to say minimum rather than at least, so that it's consistent with the others. Fire alarm is pretty straightforward. Water and wastewater there's only a couple of things that are difficult. We have a small number of properties inside and outside of the village that have refused to allow the installation of meters and endpoints for health reasons. They're afraid of the waves.
The gamma rays that come out.
Communication, I mean,
Rain.
whatever, you're surrounded by it anyway. So it has made, because it's just a small handful. But that means that our water guys still have to go out and do manual readings at those houses, which is a time suck. And I would like to try to incentivize people to come in line by charging them more. So it used to be, I'm proposing raising the per quarter rate. So In-village cost was $600 a year, with the proposed quarterly rate brings it to $1,000 a year. Out of village was 900 a year. Now raising it to 375 would bring it to 1,500 a year.
So that's just for these
That's
particular.
That's just for those properties. And it's time that Matt loses, or someone on that team loses every quarter.
Doing everything.
If there were sewer fees and fines that referenced the code, but the code chapter provided no guidance. So we're gonna need to go back and look at these. Like it says under non-service hookup, public sanitary, or new service or composting toilet, the reference is per 97.5. But if you look at 97.5, there's no guidance there. So we just need to leave it as it is for now and go in and make those changes so that there's guidance for, so it's not arbitrary.
But those usage fees are revised annually, right?
The fees we can revise the fees at any point in the year.
We don't do it.
We usually do it at reorg,
Sir.
but you can do it any time of the year.
Okay. I thought we did that. What do we do in the budget then, when we set the different rate?
Those were water usage rates and flat rates. These are, you're wanting to, like tonight, Mr. Squilla wanting to make a new connection to the water system.
Okay.
Okay, so that stays as is. Street and sidewalk has a similar issue where the deposit and bond in the code is calculated by square yard to be determined by the crew chief. I don't think that Bugsy has frequently collected a bond, and that has been problematic in the past with the driveway on Rock Street that ended up not complying with its approvals, and we had no performance bond to draw on. So this also, we need to come back to this and tighten it up and establish boundaries. And I think it should, I'm not sure how it should be, but I think we should look at other codes to see how other codes do it. That it be set by us and not determined by the crew chief, because it puts Bugsy in a.
You mean look at other municipalities?
Yeah, to see how they're structured, how they structure the amount of the bond and deposit, the performance bond. Because we should be collecting performance bonds for cases like Rock Street. But we shouldn't be putting Bugsy in a position to determine what it is,
No.
I think.
It should be the project, whatever the project is.
Yep.
You know, what the cost of the project is, that should be the bond, or 1.5 times.
1.5, how's that happen tell me about how you use it in your projects, how you have seen.
Yes, I've seen 1.5 times, 1.5 times the cost of the project.
Okay,
So if you're paying a contractor 20,000, it's 1.5. If his contract says 20,000, it's 1.5 times. Now, there could be other ways of doing it, but you wanna make sure, like, if you get a contractor that starts the job and takes off, you wanna make sure you got enough money to fix,
sorry,
to,
exactly.
to finish the job.
Okay, so that's a change we need to make in the code, and what I suggest is that I had hoped that we would get to more code changes this summer, but we have had our time sucked away by such ridiculous things. That we bundle these small changes into one public hearing and rock them out in the fall. Thank you, that's helpful. So how does that work, Tony, when you?
It's up to the insurance company that's gonna bond the job. I mean, some bonds, they ask for crazy amounts. And then you go to an insurance company to get it bonded. And they'll say, no, they're out of the line, this is too much, but that's not enough.
But I mean, who calculates, how do you, as the contractor, demonstrate the cost of the project, just from your estimate?
Just from your estimate of what the project's gonna be, then they can look at that and say, okay, the project's this amount of money, let's hold 1.5 times that. In case the contractor walks off the job, you know, or there's an unforeseen thing, they hit something.
Yep.
Things change, the homeowner or whoever the person, the contractor doesn't pay him,
Well,
and the contractor walks away.
I got that. It was what are they working from, and your estimate makes sense.
Okay. Question.
Yep.
Regarding that.
Yeah.
The applications that we have for, street openings and water sewer
updated.
hookup. We do have a cost of project line. That's left up to the applicant to fill that out, and in some cases. There's been discussion that estimates are lowered, so the bond has to be,
Right.
so I don't know if that's required any extra vetting on our part or.
Well, so the same applies in the building department, now that we have the town code, we use the town, following the town, so we can also get guidance from Jeff on how we might make that work with fees here, because it should be a similar process.
I had another question,
Yeah,
if
go
you
ahead.
don't mind, I'm just backtracking one thing, about your comment about public hearing fees.
Yeah, on HDRB.
They've been eliminated, is that right?
Right.
So,
So
you know, my
instead-
understanding is now the applicant pays for public hearing fees, which include the newspaper and making the signs that go out in front of the business
Right.
that says.
It's $80, and it's not enough to cover
Right.
advertising, the signage, Abigail's time,
Right,
so
right.
it seems. I think the discussion we had last time was making it more consistent, so whenever you go through any of the boards, it's the same process. If you're having a public hearing, you put in an escrow, the costs get taken out of that, and then you get back the
And,
balance.
and the hearing costs are part of the escrow,
Yes,
not a separate fee.
that's right.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
Thank
Well,
you.
if you have to get like the village hires a consultant to look at whatever they're doing, that comes out.
That's out of the
right?
escrow, yeah.
So $1,000.
Well, so the way it works, if you read chapter 57, is that the initial amount, and then at its discretion, the village can require replacement. When escrow is spent down,
Okay.
the village can
all right.
require a supplement.
And the language will be added to the application.
Yeah,
That
there's
if
gonna be
you-
follow through effect on all of it. This is not what the HDRB asked for. And I think they may not be happy with this, but I think from a user perspective and from a management perspective, it makes sense to have the three boards. be
I think the way you're explaining it is clear. I just want to make sure I was understanding. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, we're almost through. So like I said, we have to deal with the sewer chapter. Village rental fee. There are tables for different entities renting different locations, so it's simplest to have event application. Boat docking fees, I know that Veliana is trying to expand on what Tony was able to find. We can change the fee schedule at any time, so for now I've just left it. The other thing that she's researching, Veliana, is village bench donation. Because other municipalities do it differently than we do, because we have a finite number of benches. Some places you buy a dedication for 10 years or 20 years or whatever, so she's putting together a comparison and a rate comparison to see where we are.
I just had an image of the whole, of Main Street, like, one side to side.
Don't give anybody any ideas, Andrew. So the difference in the two is the $500 right now is if someone's like, when Stephanie died, Buckley built a new bench for her and the board approved it being placed there. The plaque itself is cheaper.
I think that's way underpriced.
I think so too. That's why I want Veliana to do a comparison.
I think that's, with the bench and labor, that's way.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, but it's without comparisons.
Right. Okay.
So she's looking at that. Short-term rentals, it's tied to the current code. We know that that needs to be updated, so I haven't changed anything there. Solicitation, I have left it as is. I do not understand where this comes from. There's no reference to organizations with a principal office in the village in the code. I don't know who that would possibly be. So knowing that we're going to do updates to chapter 71 related to food trucks, I would roll it in all at once. I'm
Musical
pretty
ice cream
obsessed about the ice cream truck.
I'm sorry, do we allow solicitation?
Yes, right now, if someone goes door to door for solar panels, for example, they're supposed to have a permit and charge $25 a day per person walking the village.
And they have to have a Putnam County contractor's license, which
Um,
they don't. A lot of them don't. Because there's some, in order to solicit business to a homeowner, you have to have a contractor's license.
I don't know that, and our code doesn't reference that, so that's good to
Well,
know.
it's a county thing.
Well,
Okay.
if it's a county thing, we
Well,
ask that they're compliant.
We're part of it, right, right.
Do you know off the top of your head what chapter that's referencing? Cause I.
Chapter 71 is licensing. My brain works in ridiculous ways. Like, why would anybody remember that?
What's chapter 72?
There is a.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, I haven't changed anything about it because the underlying legislation is from literally from the 1930s, and it's referencing door-to-door salespeople. So it needs to be updated. Andrew, yes, but I've just left this on a per case basis and C application to give us flexibility.
Mhm.
I added,
Fishing one this.
my question for you is, Tony,
Question for me?
well, yeah, because you're part of the Fish and Fur Club, right?
Yeah.
Is there, or maybe you know the answer to this, do we get requests for people to fish in our reservoirs from outside of Phillipstown?
Yes.
So should we have
Well, she
a,
would know more than, yeah, I think that if someone comes from out of the village, should be a higher fee.
so
Three
we've got, right
times.
now, we've got $5 for villagers, 10 for Phillipstown.
Mhm.
I don't know for guidance from you on,
If someone's coming from out of town, they should pay more.
I don't know if we do have from out of town. We make people show their, I mean, I can go grab.
I know we
mine.
have it out of village, but out of town.
Out of village, meaning Phillipstown, but I don't know if we have,
I don't think we have people clamoring to fish in our reservoir.
if
From
they are doing
people
it, I think they're
first.
doing it illegally, right?
So do we
Which,
wanna
and they're
add-
not allowed to trespass,
so we
so.
wanna add a line that says beyond Phillipstown and
Nah,
make it,
why don't we just keep it for
No.
residents only?
Residents only.
Residents only, cause
Of
then
Phillips.
who knows what we're gonna get up here?
okay,
You have to really be careful about monitoring the.
yeah, you're right, it's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay, so are the 5 and 10 rates? Look, we want people to enjoy our fishing. Are we good with these low prices?
Yes.
It's usually kids.
Yeah.
Seniors.
Okay, so that's everything. It was a lot. Any discussions? Or any other questions?
No, thank you for all the hard work to do that.
Sweeps did the hardest part, which was first just categorizing it.
No, that's nice,
Um,
clean.
Cool colors too.
Yeah.
I didn't see the colors.
But now I know you wanted,
Okay.
needed the.
So to review, so are you comfortable with approving it with notation of the following changes so that we can get it out into the world? The removal of the police abstract report, the addition of the word waiver under parking. Modification on page 3 from at least to minimum. I think that's it.
Typo under the fishing license.
Where's the typo?
It said $50 or.
Dollars for old people,
Oh, thank you.
but that's minor.
Taking out the dollar sign there. I make a motion to accept the fee schedule as presented with the discussed modifications made on the final version.
The waivers are included, that things to discuss later.
Yes.
Okay.
Because if we don't change it tonight, again, we're stuck at 250.
Yeah.
And I think we want to be thoughtful about it.
Vision and the motion.
that,
Revisit it.
yeah, so among the revisiting, if we want to list, if you want to identify and list the the revisits will be parking waiver,
The police report abstract, right?
police report abstracts, police fees, parking waivers, the water and sewer section where there's chapter reference, and the street and sidewalk determination of deposit bond. Those are the things to come back to.
The motion made already?
So that's my motion that was just made over 10 minutes.
I second her
Thank you,
10-minute
Tony.
motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so I'll do this tomorrow and circulate it, so Marjorie can post it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, old piece, let's go. Okay. Next item, I am allowed to perform marriages in my position. There is a request for a marriage when I will be away on vacation, and I really want to be married at Cold Spring Village Hall. So the domestic relations law, New York State law, section 11C, notwithstanding the provisions of chapter 11 by whom a marriage must be solemnized, or any other law that was solemnized, the governing body of any village, town, or city may appoint one or more marriage officers who shall have the authority to solemnize a marriage, which marriage shall be valid if performed in accordance with other provisions of the law. So I am recommending that Marjorie be appointed to be our second.
Does the judge do that as well, or that's
The
only,
judge-
only in
you-
movies?
No, the judge can perform marriages.
I would like to see
If
a
he's
more, I wanna
there,
see
if
a
he's
Morrissey
available.
wedding.
So, according to the law, he would need to be appointed also, because we're a village,
Oh, the
not
judge
a
would have to be appointed?
municipality over 1 million or something.
Oh, that's right.
So the
That's what
law-
you found. They look researching. So maybe we should appoint you and him in one motion.
Hmm.
In case someone wants the judge.
If he so desires.
If he so
If that's the
Fine.
nomination, right, okay, yeah, I think that makes sense.
All right,
If you,
so
if you want to name, you would then name the number of marriage officers you will appoint as 3, you're one,
Mhm.
and then the clerk would be one, and Judge Hilbert would be one.
Who's the last wedding we did?
I did one on St. Patrick's Day. Think about this
Mhm.
job. It's so fun. I've done a bunch of them. Okay, so so moved. Marjorie's recommendation.
Hang on.
All in favor?
I,
Is there a fee for that?
There's a $75, that should be on the fee
Oh,
schedule.
that should be.
Andrew, good
Or-
looking out over there.
There's a $75, up to a $75 fee if you don't receive salary or wages. So Mayor Foley doesn't receive a salary. But if you are salaried and you're performing in the capacity of your job, which I would be, there would be no fee.
And I never take it. I always have them give it to either the food pantry or the hub.
Mhm.
Okay,
And that's written in the state law for the village law. I'm
Okay, we
sorry,
have
did
to-
we get a second?
Yes.
Andrew seconded, we've all voted.
We're all good. Karen. Okay,
Okay,
I did stick in the
last-
minutes for the law. I'm sorry, stuck in the minutes for the other meeting, the emergency session that was not recorded.
Yeah.
On July 10th, so it's the meetings of the July 10th. 12:45 PM, Wednesday, July 10th, 12:45 PM, meeting to rescind the water emergency.
We are voting to accept. We are not voting to approve because they are your minutes. I make a motion to accept the clerk's minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
I,
Aye. All right, get bills done. Andrew, Doc?
Sure, I make a motion to approve the prior year fiscal year 2025-2026 bills, batch number 8538 in the amount of $95,223.23. And B, the current year, fiscal year 2026-2027, that number 8541, in the amount of $255,587.74.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for signing them. Me, not on the agenda, but while we're here, in August, we have meetings scheduled for the 12th and the 19th. I am gonna need to be out that week, the 19th. The next week is Labor Day weekend. My recommendation is that we have one meeting on the 12th, and if we need a business meeting to pay bills, do a daytime.
Yeah,
Or just
I
cancel the
don't
night.
think. I'm,
I've got to move to anyway, the 19th.
And Tweets is gone.
Yeah.
So, all right, we wouldn't. So we wouldn't have fun, so canceling the 19th, one meeting on August 12th. And the potential for the addition of a business meeting for bills if Michelle needs it later in the month. Okay.
And the 12th is the monthly meeting.
we don't have any executive sessions to do between now and then.
I have a quick update to
Oh,
give you
okay,
now.
okay.
So I'm now, if we're done with everything else.
Mhm.
I make a motion to enter executive session 2, let me make sure I get it right. To discuss proposed acquisition, sale, or lease of real property where disclosure would substantially affect value. Favor? Aye, this will be really quick.
This is executive?
Yeah.
Yes, so we're gonna shut off the recording, and Michael, when he's gone anyway. We're not, there's nothing else on the agenda when we. Okay, I made a motion to exit executive session at 8:52. Steve Woods seconded, we all voted in favor to come out, and now I make a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Thanks.
Productive meeting, I feel.
Mhm.
Was it
Productive?
productive?
It was a lot. It was a lot, but it was good stuff.
Was,